Well, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to tell you about a recent development in the beta version of Virtual Desktop that I feel allows for the easiest, the cheapest, and the best way to connect your Quest 3 to Virtual Desktop or flying in the sim, whether that's mixed reality, as I've been featuring on my channel lately, or just normal VR flying. After a short technical tutorial on this new feature, stick around. I'm going to tell you about my personal experience with this little aircraft you see here, the BD-5, that occurred over 50 years ago when I was in college. Well, as you may know, the virtual desktop application offers some real advantages in VR with the Quest 3, not the least of which is the ability to integrate the color pass-through into the VR environment. This feature, coupled with innovative software like PassthroughForge, has allowed us commoners to experience the joys of mixed reality flying that was previously only available to deep-pocketed military and airline operations. Unfortunately, I would get a lot of comments from my viewers complaining that they couldn't get good visual quality on their Quest 3 despite having top-of-the-line graphics cards and processors. Thankfully, the latest beta to Virtual Desktop may have solved that problem once and for all. Here's the problem. Until this recent beta, Virtual Desktop only supported wireless connections to the Quest 3 headset. The typical user would connect his headset to his existing old router with a fairly narrow bandwidth and therefore get poor visual quality. Added to that was the fact that all the devices in the network were competing for that narrow bandwidth available from the router. The reason I had better quality was that I had added an additional dedicated Wi-Fi 6 or 7 router to my setup so that there was no competition between my Quest 3 headset and the rest of the network. More dedicated bandwidth was the solution. Of course, this came at the cost of purchasing a new state-of-the-art router. Well, I'm happy to tell you that the latest beta version of Virtual Desktop seems to have solved this problem. It now allows you to use the USB-C link cable to connect directly from your computer to the headset, avoiding the need for a new router altogether. You can keep your existing router and still have exceptional bandwidth capability to the headset. So how can you join in the fun? Well, it's a simple download at the link you see here. I'll put that in the show notes also. And then it's a matter of installing that onto your computer, just like the regular streamer. Now it's time to jump into your Quest 3 headset and set up the beta there. You need to set the Quest settings so that you can make a USB connection. You do this by selecting settings, then selecting link, and then scroll to the bottom and turn on USB connection for apps. Then you can close that menu. Now click the Meta button on the right controller. That'll open your library again. Then you want to use your controller to select Virtual Desktop, hold the trigger down. Then this menu will pop up and you want to select Settings. And at the top, you can see a release channel. Click that. It shows the channels that are available. You can see live and then the beta. Now, I've already selected beta, so confirm is not available. But that's all you do. You click confirm and it will install the new version for you. Of course, you can use the same procedure to leave the beta and go back to the normal live version. For me, it worked right off the bat, but if it doesn't, you might want to restart your headset. So now we're ready to give it a try. We'll launch the virtual desktop as usual, and it'll boot up and show us the computer's menu. And you can see it already has connected to that USB. Now, if you look in the top, you can see the connections. On the left, the Wi-Fi, and on the right, the USB. You can also see the connection speeds there. Now we're in the virtual desktop. If we hit the left menu button, left controller menu button, we pop back into the computer menu here, and you can see we can disconnect the USB. And look at the top. You get that 5,000, over 5,000 megabits per second, and about half that with the Wi-Fi. So it's a very good connection, very reliable. Now we can select our original Wi-Fi connection. It will connect, and we're back to where we were before. So we have the best of both worlds. If we need to move about, we can move about. And if we want to sit in our simulator, racing or flying otherwise, we're set. We just select USB, use our link cable to our headset, and the headset can be charged if you have enough power in your USB, or you can buy a cable that has a power inserter where you can insert some power into the line. And you have your normal settings as usual, and it operates just like it did on the original Wi-Fi connection, except now it's more reliable, less latency, and faster transfer rate. Now, I teased at the beginning that if you stuck around, I'd tell you about my involvement with this little airplane that I was flying this simulator here, using the link cable, by the way. And I was probably about a junior in college, studying aeronautical engineering at Ohio State University. And I saw this plane at Oshkosh as a mock-up, not flying yet, in 1971. And I saw this plane come along, and I paid close attention to it. And I saw an ad, something like this from Popular Science. Yeah, I was a geek. I read this magazine religiously. And it was about the $2,600 BD-5. And I just happened to have that much money. It was advertised to cost about the same as the Volkswagen Beetle. And I remember I had a Volkswagen Beetle. It was purchased new for probably $2,400 in 1971. So I fell in love with this airplane. It just looks so cool, doesn't it? How could you not? And I ordered the kit. And as I continued through college, I know one of our professors had us do an evaluation on it. We were studying aircraft performance, and he said, I'm going to give you these pictures and a measurement of a human being next to it, and you guys are going to calculate the performance of this aircraft based on these pictures like you would if you worked for the CIA or something, or the Defense Department. So that was our assignment, and I was stoked. This was the airplane that I was going to buy, or I had put the money down on. I think initially the payment wasn't complete until they started shipping parts. Anyway, to make a long story short, the plane was never completely delivered. I received a number of cartons, and I built the wings, and I was working in my basement, especially during summers away from school. I was also a flight instructor at the time, so I didn't have a whole lot of time. But anyway, a friend of mine was an A&P mechanic, and he and I worked on this thing, and we got it partially done. The problem was it originally was going to have a snowmobile engine from a well-known manufacturer, and they couldn't deliver, or backed out of the project. And Jim Beatty was stuck with 6,000 orders for these airplanes and no engine. So they came up with a Herth snowmobile engine, I'm not sure, made someplace in Europe. And they just had terrible problems. They kept overheating because the engine is mounted inside the fuselage. It had a belt drive, and the belts would fail, the engines would overheat, and it crashed a number of them. One time with the FAA they're trying to get approved to go to Oshkosh to demo fly this thing, and in the process, the engine seized up after takeoff, and the test pilot crash landed it. So obviously they didn't get to do that. But anyway, a very cool airplane, a little bit of shaky and originally the flight characteristics. I probably am still alive today because they didn't deliver them, because at that point in my flying career, I think I would have had my hands full, and I would have missed out on a nice military fighter flying and airline flying career. But I thought I'd share that. I think it's pretty cool. This is AzurPoly's version and I think it's the only BD5 out there, but it's very cool for me to at least get to try this since I never got to fly my real BD5. And if you wonder why on my videos I use November 10 Romeo Bravo, of course my name Russ Barlow, and 10 was the lowest number I could get. And I reserved that N number to put on my airplane. And then, of course, after it became evident I wasn't going to complete the airplane. By the way, I sold it to a friend who never was able to complete the airplane. I think only a couple hundred out of the 6,000 people who plunked down their money actually got these things flying, and many of them had to put water-cooled Honda engines and other things in there. Actually, this jet-powered version was the only version that ever really flew with any success. But anyway, this was my one time to build an airplane, and it didn't happen, and I don't think I'll be doing it again. But thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this, and good luck with that link cable. I think it's really going to be an excellent improvement and make it much easier and cheaper for people to get great connections, and maybe dabble with virtual desktop in the MR flying, which I just think is great. In fact, I might even make a little cockpit for this airplane because it is a really cool view. Thanks for watching. I love your comments. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I hope to see you on my next video. Thanks for watching.